Hello and welcome. My name is Stacy Bersani, Program Manager for IEEE-HKN. IEEE is the world's largest technical professional organization dedicated to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. We thank you all for joining us for our 2021 Pathways to Industry program. Before we begin, please note a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are engagement tools for you to use. All tools are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to make the most out of your space. Note that we recommend using a wired internet connection to access today's presentation. Closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause issues. There is no dial-in number for this event. Please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so that you can hear our presenters. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues by clicking the orange question mark or help icon at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for today's presenters, you can submit them through the Q&A widget on your screen or click the purple Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. We will answer as many questions as time allows. If you click the green resources icon at the bottom of your screen, you'll find more information about upcoming events, including the interactive networking sessions to be held all this week, one beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today, a second one beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern today. Finally, the on-demand link for today's event will be emailed to all registrants. Our virtual event today is Impacts and Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow. It is sponsored by Southern California Edison. During this session, our panelists from Southern California Edison will highlight how you can contribute to the clean energy future. If you would like to post on Facebook about this event, please use the hashtag IAMHKN. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Nancy Ostin, the Director of IEEE-HKN.
Thank you, Stacy, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to Pathways. This is our session 2 of our 9-session event, including those 6 networking sessions that are coming up starting after this session. I want to thank you to our sponsor, Southern California Edison. We had a great session earlier with Texas Instruments, another one of our sponsors. And we do have an opportunity for you to upload your resume if you haven't done that already through the registration portal for this event. But thanks so much for joining us today. I was real excited when Joe Slevin said to me, we're talking about this event and what he wanted to present about the impacts and opportunities for a better tomorrow in the clean energy sector. The energy sector is so exciting and what's happening now, and we know how critical it's been. It's been in the news all the time, right, Joe? So I think this is going to be a fascinating session. I really thank our other experts that have joined us from Southern California Edison. So, Joe, I'm going to turn it right over to you because we want to get right to the great presentation.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for inviting us to this opportunity and for allowing us to make these presentations. So I'm Joe Slevin. I'm a senior recruiting consultant with Southern California Edison. I support engineering recruiting, among others. And I've had the opportunity to work with such known companies as Lucent Technologies, QLogic, and UCLA, among others, and at a management levels. I have a BA in economics and a master's of science in HR management. Joining me today are Charles Kim, senior engineer with SCE, and Mauro Dresti, a senior advisor working in strategic planning aligned to transportation electrification. Southern California Edison is one of the largest investor-owned utilities with a territory of over 55,000 square miles and over 15 million customers. Please join us after our speaking session for a meet and greet Q&A with our presenters, and you can ask questions along the way, and we'll be able to moderate that and to learn more about SCE and our opportunities. Our first speaker, we have Charles Kim, senior engineer with SCE. Charles will present an insightful discussion, what to look for when you apply for a job. Please welcome Charles Kim.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Charles Kim. I was Southern California Edison Company. I've been with this wonderful company for 31 years. And please pardon me, I have an accent, but Edison hires all types of people, including someone like me with an accent. So it's a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to turn your head a little bit around around, and people are asking me, what Edison, when they hire someone like engineers, what they're looking for. But I want to turn the table around, and then I want to urge you to think about a couple of things. And I know my time is limited, so I'm going to point out the 3 things that is most important to you when you look for a job, and what should be concerned about. One of the things that you need to follow is that where the national's natural resources and human resources are focusing and where is it heading. And I learned this lesson when I was in college, actually. That is, I was trying to join the defense companies. And my professors at the time said that, no, there's no future for defense companies. The reason is that Soviet Union, we used to call the Soviet Union or Russia, was about to collapse. And there will be a huge disturbance in the defense industry, and the massive layout was expected. So I was emphasizing on the control system at the time, and I have to make a little bit slight detour to go with the power industries. And there was the easiest path for me to choose it at the time. And then actually those things happened, and collapse of a Soviet Union, and a massive layout occurred in early 90s. So I learned something very difficult. That is, I have to be focused on not just some subject that I'm learning in and I'm passionate about, and also I need to look at where this nation is heading it. And one of the clue is coming out from each administration, and they have this ambitious goal. And the Biden administration, they have an American job plan, and it has key elements in it. And if you look at it, I highlight something that is related to the Southern California Edison. It is in there. And it emphasizes renewed electrical grid, clean energy, and they want to retrofit, rebuild, and preserve more than 2 million homes and commercial buildings within the United States. And this is what Biden administration is focusing on. How about the Trump administration? How about before that, Obama administration? Their focus was a little bit different, but basically they are focusing on the same thing: how fast and how slow they want to move from this industry to the other industry, and how do they create a future. The speed was different. How they implement certain things right now versus later on makes huge differences, but their focus has not been lost. And how and when they do it, they have different opinions. But last 20 years, this nation's focus has not been changed from the energy sector, especially electrical utilities. And this is where job creation and job opportunity is focusing on. That's at the national level. But in California, this slide is more than several years old, but it is still good today. The reason is that their focus has not been changed. Our legislature and the senators and governors are sending out the bills, and then so that California state and state agency can focusing on a lot of different things. But I want to mention one thing here. All these different bills and different timelines, I can summarize all this activity with the one word, that is decarbonizations. We're trying to decarbonize our power sectors, transportation sectors, and building sectors in order to combat the climate change. And the vision has not been changed. And how long is the vision? It started from before 2020. We already hit the 2020 mark, and then we are now focusing on 2030, 2040, and 2050. And we have this long-term vision of decarbonizing our climate, and it is heavily tied to our energy policies in California. So one of the things that I learned early on is that when you choose a company, when you try to apply for a company, make sure that company has a long-term prospects, future prospects. You don't want to join a company where you spend all your time learn about something new, learn about new skills and knowledge, and you're going to last only a couple of years, and then you become obsolete. You want to pour your hearts and your energy to something that it can have a last and long impact, and it will be better if that one makes our society better. So once again, consider long-term prospects. I'm an ordinary person, and some people call me extraordinary person, but it all depends on how your mind and then your passion is stimulated. And I'll give you a good experiment. This is a kid's experiment, and this is what psychologists do, and my father was a psychologist, so I learned these things along the way. And then they divide third graders in 3 different groups and trying to see if there is such a thing as extraordinary kids versus the ordinary kids through the experiment. So at third grade level, typically the classes are well mixed, and there are some smart people, then the average, and there's the average kids, and then below average person. It's well mixed at third grade level. So at group A, what they did was they gave all instruction, basically give them shape and said, select 7 materials and make it something new. And the teacher said it very quickly, and then before they sheet or teacher throw out these materials. And group B, a teacher is doing something different. That is giving 1 instruction at a time. In between, kids have a time to think. And the other group is a little bit different. That is, they change the order of instructions. And teachers are telling kids, before they show us any shape, we're going to make something great today. Think about something you want to create today. Think about it. And then it gave students a couple of minutes to think about it. And then behind the curtain, she present all different materials. And then kids were screaming. They said, oh, I was thinking about building this, and how can I use this material? And then the idea came along, and they tried to building it. So group A, group B, and group C made the objects. And then someone who is in the GATE program and special education programs, they are evaluating those products and see which group is closer to the extraordinary kids' ability of creating something new. Knowing that group A, group B, and group C, it's a third grade, same school, same economic environment, relatively same, and etc. And you're going to find out something interesting. That is, group C, their product was no different than the extraordinary people's, the creation. The reason is that teachers' ability to stimulate kids in a different ways. They can put ordinary person into the extraordinary categories. And I had this experience too. I was good at mathematics, but I was not an extraordinary person. And my professor, one of the calculus professor, when I learned the Taylor series, and they gave us homework, and the homework is try to combine those 3 elements as one, knowing that there's a complex notation which I never seen it before. At high school, I learned only trigonometry, not anything above that. So that was just an extra weekend program. Give myself a chance to do it. And eventually, I arrived at Euler's equation. And at class, and he simply substituted a pi in that equation and then come up with this Euler's identity. So it was no challenging kind of things. But midterm, before the final, this professor gave 2 set of exams. One is you can do the Taylor series expansion, just like you guys learn it, either solve it, certain things, or another set was find out what is the I to the I power. And then I look at how many questions that I solved, and then the 1 page, there were many, and then this question is just one. But it will be the equal weight. When I look at why it is the I to the I pi, and I say, yes, I can do this easily. The reason is that I drive the Euler's equation, and then I know how he drive the Euler's identity. And within 10 minutes, I solve the I to the I power, exact solution, not the approximate value, just you punch in the calculator and give you approximate number, not that, exact solution for that. Within 10 minutes, I was able to walk out in the class. And people got awed. There's a genius guy. No, I wasn't a genius guy. But my mind was stimulated by the extraordinary professors. Not every calculus teacher was extraordinary, but he was. And he knows how to stimulate the minds of people. So when you choose a company that has a long-term vision, especially when they try to foster creative thinking and culture in it. And the other elements that I want to talk about is this. I love Steve Jobs. I love his story. I know what he went through and how he recovered himself. In 1985, he got fired from Apple company that he built from ground up. And then I saw the film that he has having a discussion with the MIT students. And I always envy for some school like that who can invite a speaker like him and then have open discussions with him. But I was able to saw that. And there was a question. Typical question came along and he was able to respond rather quickly. But there was one question. It stuns, looks like it stuns Steve Jobs. That was, what is the most important thing that you personally learned from Apple that you are doing at Next, the new company that he formed? And the film, I thought it was something wrong because there was like a 20 seconds of a silence. The reason is that that question was driving him to deeply. He was thinking very deeply. Maybe he doesn't want to reveal the secret, his thinking at this juncture. Maybe he wants to respond to the question in a meaningful way. But his answer was something that I wasn't expected. This is what Steve Jobs said. I now have a long-term view on people. We are building a team, and we're going to do great stuff for next decade, not just next year. So something that he learned from Apple experience is that he's not hiring someone to have just short-term turnaround and short-term profits, but he wants to make a great stuff for next decade. How he does that? He needs to build a team. So what you need to look for when you choose a company is this long-term view on people, how company is developing people to meet its missions, its objectives, and meet it on the vision. Not just that, a lot of people wants to move into the management position. I'm not. That's the reason I'm remaining as an engineer, because I have a different interest. But I think some people need to move on to the management position. And the manager's role is very important, just like a teacher that I mentioned. How to stimulate people's thinking and how to stimulate the culture within the company so that ordinary people can do the extraordinary things in it. There are some good people within the company. Not everyone in Edison Company is doing that. But we have a lot of people who have a long-term view and investment on people. Did I mention that I've been working for this company for 31 years? And now I want to brag about my company. If you are inventors, if you are pioneers, if you are doers, if you are dreamers, and if you are guardians, Southern California Edison should be on your list. If you specialize in the cybersecurity, yes, we hire those people. Oh, I specialize in machine learning, data mining. Yes, we hire those people too. How about artificial intelligence? Yes, we do. How about I'm working about 5G new wireless network? Yes. And we need 5G for increasing our situational analysis in our grid system. And when I was involved with the 4G network, and I was very skeptical. The reason is that 4G was too slow, and dimension and degree of information that we can exchange with the 4G was limited. And we learned that from project. We demonstrated that 10 years ago. And then we said, we need the 5G to have a situational analysis, meaning that where the fault occur, where the trouble in our network is, and how can they isolate it without impacting many companies, our customers. So we need someone who are specialized in the network, such as 5G. And how about the environment? How about renewable generation? And how about the energy storage? And if you're a biologist, if you're a geologist, if you're an archaeologist, we have all of them, and we need. And how about electric vehicles? Mauro going to speak about the electric vehicle and what we do and how we develop the strategies. And we have those things for the future as well. And I was involved in electric vehicle research in 90s, and Mauro was involved with that. And then from his capacity, he was, in my opinion, he was an extraordinary engineer while I was the ordinary engineer. But our product and our fruit has been conceived. And then it was an extraordinary project in 90s. Some people call me, once again, Charles Kim is an extraordinary engineer. No, I wasn't. But my mind was stimulated by this wonderful culture within Edison Company who has long-term view and what is coming on the horizon. So Edison also have a long-term vision as well. And as I mentioned, California trying to decarbonize our economy, our environment. We're trying to reach 100% renewable by year 2045. And we want to electrify buildings, meaning that that is the least cost option right now to combat the decarbonizations. And then you're going to hear this a lot. There's environmental voices saying that we have to limit the fracking, we have to limit the use of natural resources, including natural gas, and then when it combat the climate activities. And I'm heavily involved with the electrifying or building, electrifying buildings within our service territory and try to create programs around it. Mara going to talk about electric vehicle. And there's other researches happening, and the list is endless, in my opinion. And we have this long-term vision. So my argument is here. Please stay connected with us, because you think about the future, you think about someone who has a long-term vision and who cares about the development of leaders and thinking leaders. Edison Company has been here for more than 125 years. And 31 years, I was a part of it, and I'm very proud of it. And this is a company who value the diversity, inclusion, and we respect people. And this is the one of the companies. I know there are many great companies out there, but when you look at the Fortune 500 companies and do the study, and how many companies are still remaining, that was 100 years ago. Edison is one of them, because we have this core value of investing, thinking, forward thinking, providing cost-effective energy to our customers. We talk about energy efficiency for more than 30 years of investment, and we are now modernizing our grid. Thankfully, that makes our company more appealing than 20 years ago, when every technology we used to have is a legacy system, and market is changing, so we have to evolve with that as well, and we are constantly evolving. So thanks so much. If you have a question, let me know, at the end of the presentation. And the next speaker is Mauro.
Thanks so much, Charles. You give me way too much credit.
I knew you were going to say that, but you are the extraordinary engineer.
You are extraordinary too, and I appreciate the talks. Were you going to say anything? Anyone seeing anything else? No. So
yeah,
let me go.
I just wanted to introduce you, Mauro, real quick. But
okay.
Mauro's, on his second tour of duty with SCE. You can look at his bio in the introductory pages as an overview. I just want to encourage all of you. You'll have an exclusive opportunity for Q&A with the three of us just by remaining on the session, and you'll have the opportunity to ask Q&A afterwards. So, Mauro, everybody enjoy Mauro. I've had a chance to work with him directly, and always inspired by his guidance and his information. And I always learn. I always love learning from engineers like Mauro, and as well as Charles. Mauro.
Thanks so much, and thanks so much for the talk previously, Charles. It was very inspiring. I'm going to take a little bit different tack, and I'm going to go and show you some of the work efforts that we actually do within the company to get some of our projects going. So, So I'm going to talk about program development, and as an engineer here, as Charles was noting, you can sit down and work with the systems or whatever part of engineering that you work with, but you might also delve into actually program development. Our programs are technical in some cases they are not. It requires looking over the marketplace and seeing where the market is growing and defining those areas and seeing how we can actually meet that marketplace. There are various processes that you have to go through to develop programs here in Southern California Edison. So we have internal process development where we do research, where we do standards review. So basically looking at new technologies, what standards are required behind those technologies, what do we have to meet, how we can actually enable the marketplace to participate in those standards. We do demos and tests and execution. So the basic, MBA type of stage gate approach is how we do internal process development. Then that turns into an external offering for customers, where once again we commingle market research with our internal research, figure out cost effectiveness. What's the price elasticity? Why would people be willing to take this product or program on? Is there internal alignment between the various business units? SCE being around for 125 years plus, we have different business units, and so I'm with the customer services unit. So is Charles, but we also have T&D, and we have our tech and innovation group, and we have our account executives, and it's syncing all those folks up is a major effort, but it's worthwhile. So the other thing too is that our customers aren't just our ratepayers or people that buy the distribution of electricity that we provide, but it's also regulatory alignment. So we're governed by the CPUC, the California Public Utility Commission. So it's working with them also in San Francisco, and in some cases with Sacramento with the governor's office, with GoBiz, and making sure that the efforts that we put forward in any products that we develop meet the state's mandates and or requirements as a investor-owned utility. And then execution. So the kind of products that a utility will put together are programs, for the most part, delivery of services to customers. We would develop new billing systems. We're currently in the middle of doing that. It's pretty diverse, ranging to what I'm going to talk about in future in this call, electric mobility, and how we will provide services to expand the use of EVs in our service territory. So as part of that, I thought I'd give you examples of some presentations I put together for senior management to promote some ideas or even just inform them on the marketplace itself. So first example I'm going to talk about here is home we do everything in PowerPoint here, mostly everything, unless we respond out to regulatory where it's pretty detailed writing with our reg teams. But this slide here is the beginning of a presentation given the senior executives to let them know why SCE, or as a utility, we should be involved in future energy technologies. So in this case, trying to point out that customer choices are complex, and it's escalating at a faster pace. The market tech itself, customers have the ability to purchase whatever they want, and they shouldn't be limited in those purchases. So there's infinite combinations that utilities need to determine how to address and ensure grid reliability with all these different items that customers could be utilizing or spending their energy on. The utility plays a key role in this effort today and in the future in integration of technologies to ensure safety and grid stability. It's a unique opportunity for utilities to simplify and manage choices and options for the consumer, because the consumer could feel overwhelmed. So on the next slide, we go through and talk about traditional regulated energy services, where we're at right now. What's the total customer energy budget at this point in the future? We're looking at utility revenue model, likely flat or decreasing. But customer energy spend may actually increase to grow, because of the new technologies that are out there, such as building electrification or electric vehicle usage, which could triple energy usage, at least residentially. Utilities have to look, because we are the energy supplier. We have to look at pursuing opportunities and partnerships. We just can't do this on our own. And so part of that piece is expanding our outreach from a B2B aspect, or even determining how third parties or other companies can co-market or co-brand with us. So going down this path, this is where we describe the Internet of Things that folks hadn't heard about. This is an older presentation, that most items will be aware, they can sense, they're autonomous, they're connected, they're actionable and control. And so SCE or utilities have never had that kind of reach into the customer side of the home. In other words, our point of demarcation starts at the meter itself. How can we participate in this type of effort? And so determining how to actually go through and reference or use technology that other companies are producing. One of the items that we did was go through and look at the whole supply chain for technology, how it starts at a company like Broadcom or Intel that develops a chipset that has certain capabilities, how they pass that on to Foxconn to manufacture, so they can manufacture those devices for customers such as Nest, Whirlpool, or Honeywell. So basically the white labeling piece of it. And then, how that gets distributed out and how that gets put into the home itself. How can we reach out and be a part of that food chain? How can we take advantage of it and maybe be a little bit more on the front end, more like on the Broadcom side, and try to steer some of that development versus being on the tail end, receiving it. So this is an overall slide deck that was kind of a revelation to folks. And I picked this up working at Cisco and Belkin and other companies on how this process works and how it translates to a utility itself and how the utility can take advantage of it. And so the next slide then goes through and describes, the options the utility has, whether we want to be full control, stoic, provide just a bill and provide energy services to it. That's kind of like the utility totally, or allow third parties to take advantage of it, or have a shared partnership slide. And so piece to it. And so the whole item behind this slide was to show that we really need a shared partnership effort, because working with other companies expands our reach, expands our capabilities to be able to provide services for customers. So the next one, so that was kind of more exciting because that was more of a market type of thing. This is actually, for our ratepayers or for consumers. How do we move forward in that area? Maybe I should add, that whole effort led us to develop the largest bring your own thermostat, smart thermostat program in the United States, where people will go out and buy a Nest or an Ecobee or a Zen or other thermostat, and they would automatically be participate in one of our demand programs, because we made sure that our systems worked properly with those proprietary systems to be able to do demand response, which, for those of you not familiar, is where we can lower the energy usage at any given time to relieve grid stress. A lot more, I think, forward-thinking than utilities providing thermostats and limiting customer choice, and it's just not the way to go. You really want to leverage the marketplace as much as possible. So on the other side of the spectrum, though, there's such things as EV submetering. So electric vehicles, there's a need for the marketplace to provide energy services to power electric vehicles. Currently, utilities have a single home meter, household meter that covers all the energy that goes into it. Third parties would like to provide additional services and provide energy charging services for customers within the home. So EV submetering was set up through our regulators, through the CPUC. We developed pilots where we went through and looked at what it would take to provide these type of services and allow third parties to provide billing services at a customer's home. So as part of this effort, the utility takes the lead. We develop, what the energy flows would be like in this type of thing, and what are the issues? How do we deal with submetering? How do we subtract out the costs? How do we make sure that the billing is accurate and that everyone gets paid their fair share for the transfer of energy itself? So this slide kind of shows that. A little more detail, though, is on the next slide, where we also show not only the power flows, which would be the items in red from what I can tell here, but also the billing flows, customer flows, data information that will go between the utility, a third party that would read their submeters and provide us that information, so we can go ahead and bill the customer directly and make sure everyone's made whole. So this slide itself is pretty strong, because it goes through and shows that we're looking at technology development, we're looking at standards development for the meters themselves. We're looking at IT and how we can leverage our current IT and billing systems to be able to provide these services, and also customer service. Who's a customer call when there's an issue? How do we deal with that? They basically have two service providers at this point. So next slide goes through and provides a little bit more detail on this process. And it's just kind of work that we do in the program development. We step it out bit by bit. We talk about an entity like a meter data management agent, and that could be an entity outside of the company. That would be a third party that collects that data. How do we format it? How does it come into our systems? So we can then go ahead and bill out to it. This example shows a home meter that registered on a monthly basis 1,000 kilowatt hours for the home meter and 200 kilowatt hours for the EV submeter. And that means there's 800 kilowatt hours for the house and 200 kilowatt hours for the EVs. Very simple type of example. In reality, it's much more difficult. And, in the long run, even though we're establishing these standards between the three different utilities in California, and we're passing it on to the CPUC, we don't want to be in the business of developing the standards. We want to be in the business of helping to develop the standards. So we also looked at standards bodies that are trying to develop submetering requirements. And so part of the effort to report out to the stakeholders in this area, people that want to provide these services, or our regulators or somebody else, is where those standards development are at, and when is it time for the utility to take the off lane on this development and internally, and then go ahead and be participants in like something like the NEMA standards development for submeters, because we do want to be there and let those stakeholders know the issues that we have, so we can make sure that in the long run we have the best capabilities and services for our customers. Next up, process flows. I do a lot of these with swim lanes, looking at looking at how the customer, if they have issues, who do they interface? How do they interface? And then what SCE does. This is very important because this is really the core of our business. Although we're enabling things, we have over 12,000 employees or more at this point, I would think, and all of them have processes to be able to do something, to provide some sort of service. And this is a new service, so you have to develop new processes. This basically talks about how the customer contacts us and how it ends and what happens if they contact us during business hours or not. But in addition to that, I also, as part of my efforts, work on scripting with my team. What does our customer contact center say when someone calls them? How do they deal with it? What are the next steps? How do we program the call center to be able to hit certain key presses and move forward? We are definitely. There's different opportunities as an engineer, depending where you want to go at in your skill set. If you want to go down the program path, if you want to go down the engineering path, we have it's an infinite opportunity here. So other things too is reporting on regulation. The CDFA, that's the California Department of Food and Agriculture. So why we involved with those folks? They, for EVs, are the ones that actually had the Division of Measurement and Standards under them. And so we have to interface with these regulatory bodies and legislative bodies and other areas, other folks within that area or other services in that area, because these are the guys that are the institution that actually provides the requirements for calibration of gas pumps and now electric vehicle fueling stations. And without interfacing with those folks, you'd be in trouble. You wouldn't know which direction to go in. So the point I'm trying to show here is that electricity is a motor fuel. Once again, as a presentation to our upper management. How do we provide those type of services? What's required? What type of metrology is required to provide metering, establishing certification procedures, so on and so forth? And what piece does a CDFA have? As I'm going to talk about in a few moments about our charge-ready programs, our customers buy their own charging stations. We rebate them. Those charging stations have to meet the CDFA requirement. So we have to research what's going on in the state government or in state requirements and make sure that it reflects itself accordingly in our programs. So a little bit more on the details of the specifications, on the accuracy of the meter of those devices, so on and so forth. Next example is EPIC. And so EPIC is CEC. Our customers get charged a certain amount of money for public good or for pilots, and EPIC is some of the money that comes back to them in terms of pilots or anything else. So it's called the Electric Program Investment Charge. Give you a quick example of one of the programs or pilots that we're running. This is vehicle to grid, if you've heard of that before, where we would provide the capability to control vehicles, or control vehicles that are capable of being controlled, in order to reduce the customer's choice and reduce the grid stress itself. So in this case, V2G is still an emerging tech, but we're spending money to be able to test out to see what our next step should be. This part of the presentation, once again, the senior management goes through and talks about the problems we would solve. We don't know how EVs will provide this service. We don't know if customers are going to participate, if they want us to use their batteries. Will the EV manufacturer even allow us to use their batteries? Do they need to be convinced to provide this capability in a vehicle versus having it added on later on? So on and so forth. Does it meet our rules for providing services? So questions that we would try to solve. This next slide actually goes through and talks about the value we could deliver. We can confirm that emerging EV capabilities can help us with other distributed energy resources, integrate them in, such as solar or wind or something else, if we can utilize the batteries that are going to be proliferating throughout our service territory. We have 250,000 EVs in our service territory right now. We have to make sure our grid is secured for future use. So on and so forth. So that's the kind of efforts that I've had to do, as well as develop use cases and test those use cases in program development. So I'm going to run through this fairly quickly. The next step, I'm going to give you a quick outlay of what we've done in our Charge Ready programs. And so Charge Ready is our programs to enable electric vehicle usage in our service territory. And as part of that, it meets our 2045 pathways to greener skies, GHG requirements. It's actually putting in infrastructure in the ground. Utilities have typically haven't provided service for EV charging before. We typically go to a meter and provide services for stationary load. So, as I mentioned before, there's our transportation electrification pathway to 2045. Clearly, if we provide charging services for EVs, we provide an electrification pathway. We clean up the air. We reduce the metric tons of GHGs that are produced. So we have fairly high goals. In the state of California, I think it's 2030, it's 5 million. We think our goal should be closer to 7 million EVs in the state itself. We're getting there. EVs are selling pretty well in this state, so an interesting outtake. But as part of this, we have to make sure that charging EVs are available. There's availability for that it's affordable for customers, and that customers are aware that EV charging is available throughout our service territory. And if you want to, you can take a trip from here to San Francisco, no problems with charging your EV. So the biggest change we did in Charge Ready is that, as I mentioned before, we have a boundary where we provide services to the meter itself, and then everything else on the other side, on the right side of this slide, is all customer-based equipment. We are actually expanding and providing that charging infrastructure all the way down to the chargers themselves that the customer would purchase. So that's the basic concept there. And what that does is it enables the growth of this marketplace, because utility infrastructure will last 20, 30, 40 years, but it's expensive. And so the rate of return isn't that high. So rate basing it is a means that an industrial flywheel like SCE can use to be able to expand the growth of that market. So the programs that we have under this umbrella of Charge Ready, these are items that we've already done. So we've provided a Charge Ready pilot, which expanded out to $44 million, where we installed about 160 sites, 2,200 charging ports at commercial sites, somewhere in that area, if I'm not mistaken. We've looked at fast charging DCFCs. We've installed fast chargers at various areas, kind of like a gasoline fueling station type of model, and we're monitoring those to see how long those items will last, what their use rate is, so on and so forth. We have a large port here, the port of LA, where a goodly amount of the country's exports and imports are conducted at. Electrification of that port would present a greenification of Los Angeles, which would reduce our greenhouse gas contributions. So we're looking at things there like transporting the gantryways, automating the movement of goods with electric dollies, things like that. And we're also looking at electrification of buses and transit vehicles. We feel those to be the highest areas of progress. I'm going to cut through this and go straight to, just to give us some time to talk, go straight through our current programs. So what we have up here represents almost $1 billion of money that's been set aside to electrify Class 1 to Class 8E vehicles in our service territory. We have a Charge Ready 2 program that's coming up. That's approximately 40,000 or so ports that we would install around 2025 timeframe at commercial sites to allow light-duty vehicles to charge. We have a Charge Ready transport program which is our medium and heavy duty program, where we're looking at electrifying the transportation of Class 2 to Class 8 vehicles. So that's basically step vans all the way up to semi trucks. It's an emerging market. It's still growing. We also, as SCE, provide rebates statewide for customers using low carbon fuel credit funds that we're getting to provide rebates for customers that purchase vehicles right at the dealership. So I want to give you some time for questions and answers, but overall, it's a large gamut. It's not only engineering, but it's also taking engineering skills and providing it into the marketplace and trying to benefit society. So we look forward, let's see, to you guys joining us on this ride. And thanks so much.
Well, that's so great. Thanks. And I guess, the first question is about what kinds of opportunities for young people seeking careers right now or seeking to join the energy industry, or your company in particular, what kinds of jobs are you looking for? What are you hiring for right now?
Well, Joseph, do you want to take that one on, or do you want me to take it on?
I can talk to in general. I mean, I do know that we have a number of positions in engineering in generation currently, but Mauro, can you talk to what it's like, maybe internships possibly that may have happened, or other more entry-level engineering type roles?
Well, for engineering requirements within at least the EV side, we're looking at people that can put the pieces together, look at not only technology itself, be able to develop standards, get down to the nitty-gritty, but also be able to come up for air and look at what it's going to take for our marketplace, for us to move the marketplace forward. So program managers are very important within the company. Research and development, because I touched upon that with our EPIC pieces, are important for the company. What do we do there? With the change of administration, we see a lot more funding coming down from the Department of Energy to be able to develop programs or pilots. People that are process oriented. IT is a major piece. We can't move forward with automating EV charging without having cybersecurity. And so that's a major growth area. And so we need cybersecurity individuals in the next few years. Part of the pilots I'm developing right now for a thing called VGI, vehicle to grid integration, cybersecurity is a major piece. Automation of load control is a major piece. Looking at battery storage and how to deal with that is a major piece. Basic electrical distribution is a major piece. So we cover the gamut here, and that area like storage, renewable energy, and EVs are kind of pushing it, are kind of leading the edge or the sword on this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I know a lot of our students today are looking at what they're studying or what they're going to be taking, or where to enter the industry, where are the opportunities, maybe where to do with their senior design or capstone projects next year, and those kinds of things. So I think this gives a lot of great information for them. So when you're hiring, maybe Joe, you can take this. How important is something like EDICAP in terms of your involvement beyond just the classroom with maybe what you're doing in terms of developing those other kinds of skills that we talked about in EDICAP, but being able to present or explain complex concepts when you tutor, or what kind of advice can you give in that area? Because I think, what do employers want to see on your resume when it comes to like EDICAP and how you can show that as experience when you're looking for an internship or a full-time job?
Sure, that's a good question, and there's multiple answers to that. And I think I'll start with you just look at what Mauro and Charles were sharing about programs and opportunities. If you're in projects and supporting an organization like HKN, IEEE-HKN, you have the opportunity to develop your skill set. I think develop your skill set with people, with projects, and what happens is recruiters, as a first glance, they usually have the first pass unless they work very closely with the hiring managers to go through each resume. which is typically not the case. So we do look for individuals that have expanded their horizons, that have projects that they show. And then those are the kind of questions that we would even ask. You know, what have you done in a project? What type of things have you done to be a leader? And, you know, how about, you know, understanding, you know, regulatory issues and understanding, different factors within electrical engineering and related. So, Mauro, can you answer a little bit of that as well, as far as what you would look for involvement at a deeper level?
I look for experience. I look for people that zero in and have been able to deliver programs or products. I look at the amount of effort when I'm looking at hiring people. I look at the amount of responsibility they had as part of the process, and also how. This might be slightly different, but I'm in a different role here. I do a lot of interfacing with the other utilities. I interface with our legislature. I interface with our regulatory bodies. I look for the ability to be outgoing and to discuss and to talk and be clear about what you're after. So that's the kind of stuff I look for.
Charles, how about yourself? When you're interviewing, when you're reviewing
Yes.
resumes?
So, for hiring engineers or technical people, the first thing I look at is their credentials, like educational background. The reason is that if you graduate from a very reputable company, to me, that's an easy job. I don't have to question their knowledge background or fundamental understanding of what they learn when they come from the very good universities and colleges. But what I'm really zooming is, just like Mauro mentioned it, is that like a teamwork. Can this person be a good for our team? And can they work under pressure? And what is their thinking capacity? And how passionate are they on a certain things, even hobbies? Sometimes I ask, what is your hobby? And then, what kind of community service they're providing or what kind of club they go into. The reason is that I'm looking for someone who can pour their energy into something. And then typically their passion really shows that. And so even though we're asking those questions, looks like opening questions. What is your hobby? And then what do you like to do? And what kind of project that you're working on, and what was the difficulties you're facing, how we resolve it. I'm not looking for the success factors. Yeah, I've been doing great. I got this award. Yeah, that's all great things. But what that person can do for our company as a team member, not an individual contributor. So to me, someone who can work as a team and then reconcile all the differences, knowing that we are respecting each other, but still we're not afraid to speak out. And I'm looking for those people who wants to be a part of the team.
I think that's great. I mean, I know at Company we talk a lot about scholarship, attitude, and character, so it's really about that well-rounded professional. So what we try to develop. So to all you Companies out there, think about that when your experience in the organization when you're out presenting yourself with these types of jobs. I guess somebody else asked, what's the next big thing? And we've heard of IoT and EVs and things like that. But what's the next big thing?
IoT is, to me, a very loaded term. But the integration of IoT is a huge challenge for us. For example, they introduced something called smart inverter for integrating photovoltaic into our grid. And my first question was, what is the smart inverter's IQ level? What does it do? And later on, it turned out to be a dumb inverter. The reason is that it was so concerned about things, and then it turned out to be a joke later on. So we enhanced that from that failure, and we enhanced that by forming the working group, and now we have a decent definition of what smart inverter is and how those things are going to interact with the grid. And when those things are interacting with the Edison grid, hackers can getting into that, and how we're going to integrate that. And I saw some of the failure notes about the smart locks, front doors, and then even high school can open that smart $150 smart door with the camera on, and they can get in. And so integrate IoT is a very, very, very wonderful things, but how we integrate those things will be a next chapter. And really, there's a rise of artificial intelligence, and some people are worried about what job will be replaced by the artificial intelligence. But my two things that I mention all the time is this: if you are a creative thinker, that cannot be easily replaced by the artificial intelligence. Second thing is, just like Mauro mentioned it, can you develop the relationship with your regulators? And you can talk about certain things bluntly, and share your visions, and or develop the standard. And can we tell if you are pouring your heart out and you're passionate about certain thing? That is something that artificial intelligence cannot overtake that easily. So creative thinking. Second thing is the relationships, linking those dots, and to me, that is something that you need to possess it. Certain technology is going to evolve, and I heard about artificial intelligence when I was in school more than 30 years ago, but now it becomes more tangible today. But it is, to me, far away. So integration of IoT things and how those things can work together harmoniously without jeopardizing our reliability and resiliency of our system, and how the economy will be created by all these wonderful inventions. So that's my 2 cents. Mauro, what do you think?
Yeah. Just real quick, IoT is still very important. I think it's still the next big thing, but it needs to migrate out to other devices. So when I worked at Belkin, I worked for Kevin Ashton, and he was the person that coined IoT when he worked at Procter & Gamble. And as part of that effort, I helped develop the Wemo product line, which you can buy at Costco right now, that can automate loads. But I think the next big thing is integrating IoT in a reliable fashion, very low-cost communications that 5G could offer, which means that we could instrument a lot more of our grid for very low costs, hopefully if we can get the cybersecurity issues down, and increase our reliability for energy delivery. And additionally, is the building electrification is really a moving path here. So where we would electrify such things as local space heating or hot or water heating. In the state of California, all that is provided by fossil fuels for the most part. It's not like other states. So we have an ability here to reduce fossil fuels quite a bit. And I think IoT or communications with these devices, like I mentioned, smart thermostats, is still a big piece. And basically, vehicles themselves are IoT. Telematics in the vehicles themselves, we're looking at figuring out how to leverage that, where we'd be able to at least manage EV charging load to reduce costs for customers by charging it at proper times and reduce grid stress. So I still think that's the big piece. Communications and reducing the cost of communications is I think the major item coming aboard here. It represents almost tripling the energy load by a home in the long run, which we have to figure out how to do that and how to provide that safe, reliably, and affordably. That help, Charles?
Yes. So think about the green technologies, decarbonizations, and how to combat the climate as well. Yep.
Any other questions?
So I think there's a question about, Charles, you've been there 31 years. What about the culture at SCE keeps you there?
Oh, to me, there was a dramatic change in our culture. Used to be, if our upper management says do this, like an army, we follow the order, and we have a proper channel to communicate that in a differently. And many things has been changed, and the reason is that all the traditional structure was needed to respond on that type of environment. But what happened in mid-1996 is that we used to be a vertically integrated company. That is, we generate our electricity, we distribute it, we transmit it, and we have all the way to customer service. And we used to do that. And what happened in the 90s is that our regulators decided to convert that vertically integrated and put it on horizontal and chop some of the business out. And the company needs to change its culture rapidly and saying that how we can compete with other entities when these things are happening. And then we strengthen our management in somewhat. And then during the turmoil, and we lost many good people along the way. And also we had the new ideas and new good people along the way. So it was a bumpy ride. But what I learned through 31 years of experience is this. If our leadership and people has a vision, and then knowing that our customer needs energy, and if there's alternative energy for electricity, then it will be a threat. But we know that the electricity will be there for a long, long time. So how do we maximize this commodity, knowing that people have this, many different choices, and go through that challenge together. So the reason why I mentioned that teamwork is very important is that, yes, I saw when our company to shake, I saw some people leaving the company and some of them come back. But what makes our company stronger is actually not the company itself, but the people. People who holds the value and providing our services to our customers. So as long as that mentality and core value doesn't change, and that is what I call it, yes, this is what company that I want to work for, knowing that Edison's core value has not been changed for many, many, many years. And Mauro mentioned that how can we make electricity more affordable to our customers? Yeah, we are doing this electricity, and then maybe electric consumption for homes will be double or tripled in next few years because of electric vehicle. But how can we make those things more affordable so that it will be available, affordable, and people are aware that Edison is doing this for the long ride, not for the short-term gain. So core value is that creates a core culture within Edison Company. That is the reason why I stay at this company for 31 years. Knowing that still, matter of fact, last week, a headhunter called me and said, would I like to join another company for this? And my answer was simple. Even they didn't show the dollar value, how much I'm going to make it, I'm going to say no. The reason is that still I want to ride with the Edison Company, knowing that my job is important and contributing to this society. That core value is what holding me still after 31 years.
Okay, it's Stacy, and we do have a few more questions. Given that the name of this session is called Impacts and Opportunities, what kind of impact can a new employee have in a job at SCE? Where is that impact felt?
Wow, that's a hard one to answer because we have so many areas within the company that an employee could participate in. As an engineer, we're still basically an engineering company. So areas of impact could be, like I said, in research and development, figuring out what programs or what products are near term, how we can move things forward. Areas of impact could be is how do we reduce barriers to provide services, like standards development or something else. Areas of impact that a new employee could have is how do we reduce our cost, or how do we increase our reliability for our information services? Geez, areas of impact could be how do we help our regulatory team to provide the right answers to our regulators themselves, so we can move forward and enable new programs or services for customers. Areas of impact could be how do we help our low-income customers and our disadvantaged communities to be able to participate and have an equal footing or say in programs that they would get. Areas of impact could be how do we reduce greenhouse gas reduction in our service territory? How do we increase safety for the use of electricity? It's just, there's just so many pieces within the company, so many areas. And you know, one thing that we didn't touch on that much was T&D, which is really the heartbeat of the company itself, transmission and distribution. In those areas, you know, how do we monitor the equipment that's out there? How do we make sure that we replace equipment before it fails, so that customers don't have outages, or so that we don't have fires or anything else? How do we monitor it? You know, what technology should we use? Drone? There's a myriad of possibilities. And so we are a regional utility, but we're one of the bigger ones. And as Charles was saying, we're basically an industrial flywheel within Southern California. We keep this industry moving, as was noticed in Texas when they had their outages with ERCOT. Everything ground to a halt, and you know, even gasoline couldn't be pumped out of the ground. That's the impact you could have for working like company out of this, like this. You keep society moving. Probably the best way to put it.
Great. Another question from the audience is Southern Edison Company into large-scale power generation? And how diverse is the renewable energy portfolio?
So our renewable portfolio is more than 50% of our generation purchase. And as I mentioned before, in 90s, before middle of 1990s, we own and operate many generations before, but our regulators ask us to sell those things. So unless it is under the federal regulation we call FERC. And so we still have a dam, and we lost the nuclear generations, but we have we work with something called the California Independent System Operator to procure renewable generation. So our renewable portfolio is over 50, and we beat the California's renewable portfolio standard ahead of time, and we're trying to march into 100% renewable by 2045. And also we create a program with the state so that we have more than 1 million PVs on the roof in California. It created challenges, and that's the reason why I mentioned the smart inverter turned out to be a dumb inverter a minute ago, and we learned from those things. And so when it comes to renewable portfolio, yes, we are more than 50%, and we are committed, and we're going to bring more renewables until it reaches the 100% renewable by year 2045.
Charles, can you mention PVs on rooftops and such? Can you mention the grid of the future real quick in relation to the renewable?
Yeah, grid of the future is we never thought about when I joined this company. So what kind of impact that can make? Sometimes we're trying to make something that market is not ready for it. And I was doing the PV generation research in 90s, and it turned out to be not cost effective. But when technology innovation occurs and it is ready to the market, and there was incentive programs and huge tax credits. So people who are using electricity, especially in Southern California during the summer when the rate is high, the PV companies went after with the incentives and the federal tax credits, and they targeted people with the higher electric bills. And what happened is that we project, maybe they will adopt this much, but the PV adoption rate was humongous, and it was very popular. And matter of fact, initially, the PV companies was leasing out their equipment. So you don't have to pay the full price. And you just need to pay monthly bill, knowing that your monthly bill will not going to exceed a certain amount. And today, I will say more than 95% of customers, they purchase the PV equipment. The reason is that it is very cost effective for them, and it really reduced their electric bills. And I did a demonstration projects installing PVs and then bring their home to something called zero energy homes. That means you generate, over the course of 1 year, you generate more electricity that you are consuming it. And I did a demonstration project, and the one disappointing fact that I found out is that their monthly bill used to be anywhere on average about $100+. And after the demonstration project, because we installed the PV, their monthly bill was about $1 per month. So, so that is the impact. That's the reason why I mentioned that market is evolving very quickly, and market might adopt certain technology much faster than the other ones. So Edison Company needs to be ready for it. So in order to be ready for evolving market, we need the young engineers and then who knows how to know this rapid change in our system and deploy solutions to manage it. Good example is this. When I joined the Edison Company in the 90s, we don't care about the 1 hour interval. We care about the 30-year projection and say that, oh, this equipment is good for 30 years. And we don't have to monitor that at all. The reason is that customer, we oversize our equipment so that you will never gonna reach that activities. But who knew the electric vehicle can double and triple the energy use, and it was designed for only this much. Now it's much bigger. So we are looking for data analytics that we are looking at from 1 year peak to 50 minutes peak, hourly peak, 50 minutes. Now we want to go down to the 1 minute interval levels. And that's the reason why if someone is specialized in machine languages and data analytics, yes, we hire those people because we changed and we are looking for those type of skills as well.
Thank you. This may have been answered in one form or another, but we have a more directly asked here. What are the growth areas in clean energy? Is it hardware, infrastructure, as in the PVs, software? Where do you see the next big growth areas?
Well, on that one, I see it in all of the above. So yes, software is a big growth area. There's a lot of folks providing smart apps that could provide this type of services. But without the hardware, you really can't do much. So it's the equipment itself. It's what provides the clean energy that will allow you to increase distribution of that. Battery technology, chemistry behind that. How do we interface with it? How do we make sure that it meets our goals for cost effectiveness? So I just see it overall. There's a lot of push on software itself. I still think it's a hardware piece. Like in the presentation I was going through, I was showing for vehicle to grid integration. The easiest way to do this, of course, would be through an app or through software. But if the vehicle is not ready for it, if the vehicle can't interface, if the vehicle doesn't have the hardware or capabilities to do it, if we can't convince the auto manufacturers that those batteries should be used for other things besides transportation, we're dead in the water. So I'm more of a hardware person than a software person, even though I play in both areas. So I just think that's where we need more concentration, the development of this type of equipment, and the development of these type of services, so we can actually automate it and make it smart. You're going to say something, Charles?
I echo that. No, I echo that. We need the hardware that we have is not perfect, and then some of them is way too costly. Think about it. Simple communication, they can control the water heater, right now, the module is anywhere between $150 to $200. But because the technology, the market is driven by I call it low tech, and they're trying to adopt something that is legacy right now that they have been working for the many, many years, and they ended up with adopting technology that is about $150 to $250 for simple water heaters. But I know that if they put mines on it and then Wi-Fi chips integrated with different software program in it, and my thinking is that $150 module can be replaced by maybe $5, maybe $2. Who knows? But the cost-effective solution might be available. So hardware, software, yeah, it goes well. But what I'm trying to say to the engineer is that you cannot ignore the market. What people want. Some people is willing to spend $1,000 for cell phones, and I never envisioned that. Who's gonna pay $1,000 for the cell phone? But people do. And when Nest came out, $300 thermostat, and then my projection was wrong, and I said, who are gonna buy those Nest? The thermostat, they control your ACs. And totally, I was wrong. So yes, innovation, hardware and software, and the intelligence, they put it together, right? And how those things will be adapted to the market, that is the big question that people need to think about it. But in terms of should I go to hardware, should I go to the software, it goes hand in hand. The reason is that the hardware, certain functionality cannot be done by improving software alone. Think about the robots. They can move their hands like me, or they can do this, right, very slowly. And then software improvement, they cannot change this into this. So hardware and software needs to go hand in hand, and they need to be sensitive with the market. That's the reason why someone like Mauro is looking at the market, how the project market is going to be accessible and affordable, and what is the people's awareness on these technologies, and etc. So that's the reason why we need many, many different talents. If you are hardware, yes, you are in the good place. You are in the software business, you are in the good business. You can do both, great. But you need the marketing people too. Edison hires a lot of people. The reason is that we need not just hardware engineers, software engineers, but many of the people.
Great. We talked about needing many people just now, and one of the questions that I have is lately we've been hearing a lot about team science and how silos are being broken down between disciplines in order for a larger problem to be solved. Does this type of activity, does this teamwork occur at Southern California Edison? And if so, can you give us an example or two of where it's happening?
In terms of breaking down silos,
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I think we've broken down a lot of silos with the pandemic because we're utilizing more technology now to communicate with each other. And so we typically use items like Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth to get people talking to each other. I find that through the tools that the company has, the high-tech tools that we've developed or that we've given our employees, that's kind of gone by the wayside. I'm on a call typically maybe about 2/3 or half of my time on a daily basis talking to other individuals now, moving projects forward. I didn't spend that kind of time before. It was more of a single team effort. Now we're definitely on a collaboration bent. So with the tools that we have that our IT team has provided us, we are being much more effective at communicating with folks. We spend less time driving. But some people may still need to do that because, we provide services over a 50,000 square mile area. So you do need to go out and look at the infrastructure and work with it. But at the same time, I found that in the past several years, especially this year, that we've accelerated our ability to collaborate.
And I just want to echo Mauro. when I joined Edison Company many years ago, yes, there were many silos because the communication channel, we don't have that many communication channel. It used to be a top-down, and there used to be I need to go to the board and then read the announcement from our executives, right? And now we have this social media, and then job offers is coming, new ideas coming in, and people love to share it. And naturally, our company evolved through that. But naturally, what happened is this: through the social media, through the different communications, and through endless number of emails and then chat boxes, etc. And forum like this, we share ideas and problems together, and then our engineering society, in my opinion, actually grown. And I talk many engineers with the GE and the RIMS, and especially like a smart inverter companies and electric vehicle companies more than ever. The reason is that they know how their product is linked to the utilities, and there's a need for the communications. So in my opinion, because of this communication tool has been evolved so great, we have a great chance to talk to many engineers, not just in the United States, but other countries as well. So silos is there, yes. How about the degree of silos? I go outside of companies, and sometimes it is a great feeling to know that even commissioner of California Energy Commission called me by my first name. The reason is that I'm just an engineer. How come commissioner recognized me as one of their the partners or stakeholders? The reason is that we communicated through these wonderful technologies. So silo is still there, but compared to 30 years ago, because of technology innovation, it's not there. So connection made silos going down and down, down, and your world actually got bigger through this technology innovations. And pandemic certainly provide that. I wasn't in my office for last more than a year now, and still same amount of work is done, and I'm enjoying this actually telecommuting more than ever.
I actually think we're doing more work because of the technology and the capabilities that the company's given us. I'm getting more done now than I did before. To your point, we interface with our CCAs, which are our community choice aggregators. I talk with our other IOUs every couple of days, more often than not. It's communications we just never had before, and so the silos are being broken down, within the company itself, not only within the company itself. Excuse me, let me use the right words, but externally, with all other stakeholders. Yep. So not what it used to be, not when we used to read bulletins off the bulletin board, like you said.
Yep.
We're running low on time here. This has been very engaging, Mauro and Charles. Thank you so much, both of you. And it's just an example of breaking down silos. I networked to get Charles and Mauro involved, and it's just so wonderful to be able to work with a team that has such vision and openness and willingness to communicate across organizations. So there's two opportunities to keep following us. One is our career network. I mentioned I did send a landing page for engineering. It's type of profiles in engineering, and then you can click through and take a look at our jobs by doing a click through on the different mastheads and such. And also joining our career network is important because you're going to be able to receive data from us. Edison that is our newsletter. You'll receive that once a month. We don't overload your email, but it'll be from our career center. So those are two things that you can do to continue following us. Looking forward to your resumes. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you wish. Also, feel free to ask any follow-up questions, and I can feed them to our presenters. I want to thank Ed Kapanu for inviting us to this opportunity. And I want to thank our presenters because Charles and Mauro were very willing to do this. Excited about the opportunity to share and to inspire, hopefully, new opportunities and a vision for all of you. Thank you so much, Stacy and Nancy and the team there at Kappa Nu.
Do you not want to send these to Catholic school district?
Stacy, any more comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Joe. I just want to remind our audience that we do have a networking session going on now. You could find that in the resources link at the bottom of your control panel. Also, the links that Joe was talking about, the career portal and his LinkedIn address, have been sent out via the Q&A icon, so you can go in there and cut and paste them so that you can check them out. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank Joe, Mauro, and Charles for joining us. They gave us so many nice things to discuss and learn about, and we hope to see you in more sessions going forward. Thanks again, and that's the end of the broadcast. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Stay safe.